Melochim. Very Yalav Zayin. Kishem Amidna Melech. When you establish a king, Machon Nesher HaGodol. You have to anoint him with Shemen HaMishcha. Now we'll go to the Peirush, because it says Shenema. The Rambam says, quotes Shmuel Aleph 10 Aleph 10:1. Vayikach Shmuel. Shmuel took his pach Shemen, the vial of oil. This was a small container of oil, and he poured it on the head of Shaul, meaning he anointed him from that oil. It's done differently, that you make it like a crown, circular aloishoy. You can't anoint other places. You shouldn't have a lot of oil. As we find in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, how do you anoint the kohen? A crown on their head, and you shouldn't do other places. You shouldn't add oil. As the Mishnah writes, that the source is Creases 5b. The Rambam taught us that you anoint the kings like with this type of a crown, the Gehanim like a key, which is a C in Greek. The Meiri and Horias extracts from the words of the Rambam, Hilchos Yesodei that way he says, when you appoint a king from the household of David, you anoint him with oil from the Shemen HaMishcha, which was made by Moshe Rabbeinu. And by here in Halacha Yud, he says, when you appoint the kings of Israel, you don't use Shemen HaMishcha, only afarsamin. It's persimmon oil. The question is, from this that the Rambam brings by us the statement of Shemen HaMishcha, that when they anointed Shaul, it would seem that he was used with Shemen HaMishcha, even though he was not from the kingdom of David. Toises are the opinion that you don't, with the law that you cannot anoint the kings of Yisrael with the Shemen HaMishcha, is only happened after King David was Melech, because it says Mashcheu, anoint him ki zehu. This is the one, and only Malach is David. I use Shemen HaMishcha, not the kings of Israel that came after them. And there is only after David was merited the kingdom, but Shaul was before that, and therefore he might have been anointed with Shemen HaMishcha. The Chidah cites, it's brought down Pirkei Rebbe Lezer, also Chuvas Amipano, that Shaul was anointed with the Shemen HaMishcha. But Radak writes that they used persimmon oil, like the kings of Israel. What Chana said in her prophecy, Roma Karni, that my horn has been uplifted. The Yerushalmi says that David and Shlomo were anointed with the horn, and the oil was placed in the horn and then poured on them, and therefore their kingdom is eternal. Shaul, it says for sure there, was a pach, it was a small vessel, and therefore it was only temporary. In the Tzion Yerushalayim, he points out from us and from the Bavli and Creases that Shaul was anointed from the pach of persimmon oil, like the Radak. In Tzion Yerushalayim cites a medrash, which is brought down by the Alshuf, that Shaul was anointed with persimmon oil. Now, from the Rambam, it seems, he brings a posuk that says, Shaul, that he learned that even Shaul was anointed from the Shemen HaMishcha. In the case of Mishnah Halacha Yud, it would seem that Shaul was anointed with persimmon oil. The Chachmas Betzalel, the Goyin of Betzalel Mirenichburg, says that Shaul was anointed with Shemen HaMishcha because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to anoint him. Because why does the Rambam bring the posuk that Shmuel anointed Shaul and not the posuk that Shmuel took the horn of oil and he anointed David. Halacha Gimel, the Rambam cites that Moshe Bezdinoi appointed Yeshua to be Melech, like in the Mechilta, in Parshas Pinchas, that tells us that that day Yeshua was anointed. And it would seem Moshe Rabbeinu anointed him with Shevan HaMishcha. He is approved. There was a thesis. The anointment of the kings of Israel with persimmon oil was only after David, because if Yeshua was anointed, then he was anointed. And with Shevan HaMishcha wasn't only for Beis David, so this law of only for Beis David came into being afterwards. The way of anointing a king that you do, though, you make him a crown, is also brought down in Hilchos Yesodei by when you anoint the king, the Kohen. How do you anoint a Kohen? You pour it on his head, and it goes onto his eyes. Malchus Beis David says that you anoint them like around his head. It doesn't mention pouring. The Kei Sefer points out that by the king, they did not pour, they only put it on with their hands, smeared it, and the Chidom says, points this out from the Bartanura, and we see in the Gemara, and he questions that when Shaul was anointed in Yehu, it says in the Pasuk, Yitzika, they poured it. According to most Mefarshim, Shaul was anointed with Shevan HaMishcha, and why do we learn from what it says about Yitzhak that they poured it, that by the king you do have to pour it? And Achorei HaTorah cites the Sefer Ksav, he infers the words of the Rambam, Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, the Machon Beis David you do like a Nezer. The Machon Yisrael they did not do Kem a Nezer. There's the opinion that they learned it from what it says Yitzika only by Shaul v'Yehu. From Machon Yisrael, by Machon Beis David it says Meshicha, which points out they made it like a crown. And the Posuk praises David HaMelech on his anointment in Tilim, Shem Kochi Meshachtiv. And even though by Shaul he was anointed with oil, it wasn't like the elevation of David that was done like Nezer. It was only poured. Therefore, we can understand by Hilchos Yesodei he doesn't mention Yitzika of pouring, only anointing. Continuing in Perek Aleph, Halacha Zayin, Halacha Melochim, even a Mashiach. How do you do the anointing of a king? So you do it like a Nezer. Is brought down in Hilchos Yesodei by the Kahanim in Perek Aleph Halacha Tes, the first chapter, Halacha, 9th Halacha. How do you anoint a Kohen? You pour it on his head, and it flows, and you do it on his. It flows onto his eyes. In Machon Beis David it says that you do it in a circle around his head, and it doesn't mention you pour it. The Kei Sefer points out, infers in the language, that by a king there is no pouring, just anointing. The Chidom infers so from the Bartanura, and it would seem in the Gemara as well. In questions, by Shaul, it says that they did pour. According to most of the commentaries, Shaul did have the Shevan HaMishcha, the special oil that Moshe Rabbeinu made. Why don't we learn from there when it says over here they pour it, that the king's anointing is through a pouring first? And the Achorei HaTorah, it's brought down in the Sefer Ksav, he infers from the words of the Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei that Machon Beis David, they would anoint them with like a circle around their head. The kings of Yisrael, they did not have that circle around their head. These are the opinion that we learned so, because it says pouring only by Shaul and V'Yehu, the Machon Yisrael. By Machon Beis David it says Meshicha, which says making that circle. And the passage praises David HaMelech on his anointing, because it says B'Shem Kochi Meshachtiv, with holy oil have I anointed him. And even though Shaul too, you had Shemen HaMishcha, the special oil, it was not like the level of David. It was also done around his head, and therefore we understand why in the Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, they do not mention the pouring, rather only the anointing, because that's the more important part of the anointing. When do the kings inherit the kingdom? Rambam says, the anointed king, he merits for himself, and to his children, the oilam forever, the kingdom. The Malchus is inheritance to them. Shenemar says in Devarim 17:20, that he may have many years on his kingdom. Who he, Ubonov, and his children, Bekerev Yisrael, amongst Klal Yisrael. The Chinuch in Mitzvah 497 says that from the moment that he's appointed, even before he's anointed, he already has the rights to the kingdom and for his children. The Chakri Lev explains that the Rambam is of the opinion that before he's anointed, it does not go over inheritance. Only because Shaul was anointed, it would have been his forever, and since he sinned, it was taken away from him the inheritance of the kingdom. But other positions of rulership, even though there's no anointing, it goes by inheritance, because it says in Devarim 17:20, Bekerev Yisrael, anything that's within a rulership position in Yisrael. He adds that the Rambam learned it from the words of Hashem to Shmuel. Come and anoint him. It doesn't come to tell us about the anointing, but rather on the inheritance. That somebody who's not anointed, it does not go over inheritance to his children. And the kings of Israel, even though they weren't anointed with the Shemen HaMishcha, according to the Rambam, even if they would not have sinned, the kingdom would not have gone further, as we'll see in Halacha Tes. The Emek Brocha, Talmud of the Rabbin Brisk, cites that the Rabbin Brisk inferred, according to the Rambam, the inheritance of kingdom is not like that of land, that when the father dies, his son inherits the estate, but as soon as he is anointed, it's already theirs. As we find in Horayos, you don't have to anoint a king who's the son of a king. And Shlomo, they anointed because they were afraid of because of the disagreement that Adonio claimed the kingship. Then Brocha adds that they anointed Shlomo when David HaMelech was living because of the Machlokes, and without a reason there was no need for anointing, because David HaMelech received the kingdom. And only the estate has to do with death, but kingdom continues, doesn't have to do with death. It says that he should live on his kingdom, he and his children among Yisrael. It doesn't say misa, it doesn't say death, because he comes in his place of his father, even in the life of his father. When the father's elderly and he can't be king, or he could be king, but he doesn't want to be king, the son inherits and becomes a king. And it seems in Lashon Rambam that once you anoint the father, then he inherits it for himself and his children forever, even the lifetime of his father. Yinas V'Radim is of the opinion the kingdom and rulership go with inheritance, but not Torah. Therefore, whenever in doubt, one has to be stringent. The Mefarshim discuss if an heir of a king needs to be appointed or he receives it automatically. Like Lev judges was it then when he left a small son, does he get it automatically? So it's not Paneach, cites from Megillah, David from Megillah, the Masechta Megillah, Yudal and Beis. David said Lavigail that Novel is Chayav Misa because he rebelled against the kingdom, and even though Shaul HaMelech was still alive when Shmuel HaNovi anointed David to be king, the kingdom went to David. So Abigail said to David, The Rambam doesn't have it in a Moed Malchus. Why? Because when he rebelled, how was he supposed to know that there was Melochim? And he explains at length what's brought in Tanakh. Avishai ben Tzruya wanted that David should kill Shaul. And David said that whoever puts his hand to kill the Mashiach Hashem will not be forgiven, because he was of the opinion that it has to do with the anointing. And therefore David was of the opinion Novel, the Kalmi, was called a murder Malchus. He's liable Misa that he did not give the servants of David what they asked for. The guy answered that all the time that he wasn't actually an active king. He doesn't have a right to be, he's not considered a king. The Parshas Drachim also goes into this question. Now, keeping a kingdom for a minor son. Hiniach, if the king left, the Rambam says, after he died, Ben Kotten, a small child. Shamlei Amluchat Shigal. You watch over him, the kingdom, until he becomes older. Kamosha also Yoyodo, Yoyosh. Just like Yoyoda HaKohen did Yoyosh, who was left from all those that Atalia killed all the children of the household of David. And there are mentions Yoivas Melch Yehoram, the sister of Achazio, took Yehoyash ben Achazio, the child, like Tignav Oisoy Mitor Bnei HaMelech, how Muslim from she stole them from amongst the children of the king who were going to be killed. And they hid him in the house of Hashem 6 years. Natalia was queen was ruling. She wasn't queen, as we learned earlier. In the 7th year, Yoyoda HaKohen sent the husband of Yeshua, and he crowned Yoash. So we see that they kept the Malchus from Beis David for his youngest child until he grew up and was worthy of being king. So this Chinuch writes that that's the source of the law. The questions, we find that everyone agreed to his kingdom, and only they kept it for him as to be careful. But really, if a king dies, it means a child that cannot be king. It could be that he would be pushed away. But here they agreed to it. And if you'll argue that if Yoash wasn't worthy of being king, it should go to the next of kin according to inheritance. What does that help? That they agreed to make him king as Yoash. He was the closest relative of anyone. There was no one else left. So the Chagalev explains the kingdom goes over inheritance to the brothers of the king only when he dies. He doesn't have a son. But when he leaves a son, even though he's a kohen and he cannot be king, or he cannot fulfill the place of his father, the son does not become king. The brother does not become king, because there's a son. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the rules of. And it's not uprooted from the small child law of inheritance. Just regarding Yoash, you don't have to say this because it says Atalia, the mother of Achazia, saw that her son died, and therefore she killed all the seed, all the descendants of the kingdom. Yoash was only left, so other than him, there was nobody else from Beis David. That there were no brothers or any other distant relatives, as we find in Sanhedrin. Omar Yehuda Marav, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeDavid. HaKadosh Baruch said to David, Ad Mosai Yeh Avoin B'yodecha. How long will there be sin in your hands? Because of you, Noi V'Yakanim was destroyed. V'nitra Doeg HaDoimim. V'nergu Shol Shloishes Bonov. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to David to choose because of what he did, whether his seed will cease or he will be given to the enemy. And David chose to be given over to the enemy, and therefore through his prayer he overturned the ruling, and his seed was supposed to be destroyed. And the Gemara proves that his seed was destroyed because Atalia killed all of the seed. So the Gemara says that's not a midah keneged midah on killing Noivi Kahanim, because Yoyesh was left. The Gemara answers that also by it should. The Gemara answers that when Noivi Kahanim there was leftover of Yosef. It says Vayimol ben Echad Achi Melech ben Achi Toiv Ushmoi Avi Yosef. So just like there was one left, here too there was one left. Chagrelev goes ahead and questions, how can you learn the Yerusha, the inheritance of the kingdom, from Yehoyash, but he's the only one that was left over? It could be he could not inherit it, but there was nobody else left, and therefore they made him king, and not because of inheritance. Furthermore, there's a question, how could it be that you don't appoint a king until the child grows up? We are commanded to appoint a king, and it's a mitzvah that's obligatory. And if you'll answer, that means that he inherits it for his children, and therefore you should not place anyone in between until he becomes an adult. Yisrael wanted to the seat of the king to be the heirs to the throne, but you can't give a young child to be who's in the crib to be king. Because Rambam himself says that Ben Melech is not worthy of being king, and after doesn't inherit it, and therefore, what is a small child any different than somebody who can't fulfill the obligations of kingdom? And he explains that the Rambam learned from Yoda that the Melech, that he did cause Yoyosh to be Melech, that he left a small son. In the meantime, it's forbidden to someone else to be king. You have to wait until he becomes an adult. When he becomes an adult, he will be king. And what Atalia was queen in the interim, she was not really a queen, because a woman cannot be a queen. And then he writes that you appoint a regent, so as to be to watch over the kingdom, and not like the Chakri Lev, which says you don't appoint anyone. The Rambam continues with the order of the inheritance of the king. The Rambam says, whoever's first inheritance, that's the order of precedence for inheriting the crown. And the older son is before the younger from him. And therefore, when a king has many children, the oldest becomes king. Now, the Gezer Mishnah cites Ksubis, that Rebbe said before he died, even though Shimon, my son, is a Chocham, Gamliel B'ni will be Nosi, because he's the oldest. And Gamliel Yeshofet says they gave to Yehoram because he's the B'chor. So you see, the oldest is before. Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah cites a Tosefta, whoever precedes inheritance is first in rulership, but he has to be worthy like his father. The Rambam Hilchos Yesodei says, when the king dies, or the Kohen Gadol, or anyone else who has an appointment, you place from his children, his son, or the one who is worthy of inheriting him, and whoever's first comes before the dead, and he has to fulfill the place of his father in wisdom and in fear of Hashem. This does not apply only to kingdom. Always any position of prominence. Any position should be Yisrael. And it's found in Klal Yisrael. The Chakri Lev explains that this comes to add even me. It's only a position of honor. Yerusha Leben B'noi Ad Olam. It's an inheritance for him and his children forever, just like kingdom. The Rambam adds, the son has to fulfill the place of his father in wisdom and in fear. And if he fulfills it with fear, even though he doesn't have as much wisdom, we place him in his father's place. And we teach him to be wise. Somebody who has no fear of heaven, even if he's very wise, and he's a very intelligent, great person. We do not appoint him of any position which is established in Israel. His sight is free. He and his children, his sons, that if he dies, his sons is in his place. Only how do I know that this does not only apply to a king? How do I know by others? Because it says B'kerev Yisrael, amongst Yisrael, whatever they might be. And we bring Rae Gann in the Psik Torah of Kahano, that not of Avihu, it says Ubonim Lo Yoyolem. From this we learned that they would have children. Their children would have been before their brothers, and that's of course with the condition that they acted the same as their fathers. Agos Maimonides adds in the Yerushalmi, and that's what we find in the Bavli. A Melech that died, all Israel can be kings. A wise person that died, and we don't have like him. And he cites in Masechtas Smoches, which is a euphemism, the kings that died, we place their crowns to their children. Rich people who died, we give their assets to their children. So as Kahneman says, in the place of his father, that the son precedes every other person. I might think, even though he cannot fulfill the place of his father, it says, Ashiyamala is Yodoi. Only when he fulfills the place of his father, he is before everyone else, because it says by the Gedolah to be in the place of his father. But if he doesn't fulfill the place of his father, somebody else should take his place. And so too by king, by any other position of rulership, a son precedes everyone. Agos Maimonides infers from Ksubas 22b, and the Kesef Mishnah explains that it means Kuf Gimel Beis 103b. What Rabbeinu HaKodesh said to Gamliel should be Nasi, even though he could not fulfill the father's position in wisdom. Still, as Rabbeinu HaKodesh said, still in fear of God he filled it, and the person what is the determining factor is if he fills the father's place in both wisdom and fear, but if he doesn't have the wisdom, as long as he has the fear. And it continues, if he would fulfill it with fear, even though he's not fulfilling it with wisdom, we place him in the place of his father, we teach him wisdom. Go into the question whether Torah goes over Yerusha. The Mordechai, it would seem that when other things, it doesn't. Other heirs do not inherit it. Only the son of the appointed one inherits when it comes to other positions of prominence. Now we have to know by a son, there's not a firstborn. If we say he's not a b'chor, meaning a firstborn son, halachically, we go according to age, and you can't prove anything on the Kesef Mishnah. Maybe he refers to only a firstborn, but not somebody's regular son before the other. The Kiryat Sefer, that the older son, who's not a b'chor, also precedes a younger brother. Chokr Lev also goes into the question if a young son is before an older brother. He proves it from the Pasuk in Divrei Hayomim, Vayomas not of Avihu, that none of Avihu died and they didn't have children. It doesn't mention that Los of Yisrael inherited them. Right? He says that the Pasuk comes to teach us that because none of Avihu, they didn't have children, therefore Los of Yisrael were in their place. But if they would have had children, they would have preceded Los of Yisrael to be Kohen Gadol. Because it says in Ezra, Sharia gave birth to Yehitzaddik. Yehitzaddik and Ezra both were the children of Shreya. Yehitzaddik was the father of Yehoshea ben Yehitzaddik. When they went up from Babel, Yehoshea ben Yehitzaddik was Kohen Gadol, not Ezra, because he was the firstborn of Yesodei. He preceded Ezra, Yeshua Benoim, of the other older brother, as it says, Yeshua ben Yesodei HaGodol. So we see from Rashi that the son who is the older son precedes the son, the younger brother of the firstborn son. The son of the older brother precedes the brother of a Bechor. Hakerev also questions and discusses if the desire of the father to give his son to inherit if his younger child, even though he has an older child, what is the rule? The Avnei Nezer also discusses that when the population wants the younger son rather than the older son. The Hakerev also discusses if a son can say, "I don't want my portion," when there's a gathering or the majority don't want that this son should inherit that his father's position, if the inheritance of the kingdom is taken away from him or other positions of prominence. Furthermore, we find what's the rule when the king or one of the other members of his prominence want to sell or to give it to somebody else, not to his son. The discusses whether the inheritance of other positions is only after the father dies or even during his lifetimes. Also, if when he no longer can do the job, we say that the son inherits the father's place, and he brings what the later commentaries infer from the Rambam, that when the king is anointed, he's anointed for himself and for his children, even during his lifetime. The Chassam Sofer, the Avnei Nezer, judged the question: somebody who has a prominence to teach Torah or a rabbinate, whether his sons inherit in that regard. The Dvar Shmuel infers from the Rambam, he does do so because it says any appointment. When the son inherits an appointment, even things that are not a rulership, it takes effect. The Hakerev also discusses why does the Rambam change his language. Here he writes, and only if the son can fulfill the place of his father in wisdom and fear, and if it was with fear alone, even though it's not with wisdom, you do put him in the place of his father. You teach him wisdom. In Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, he writes either wisdom or fear, and he explains that if you fulfill your father's position with wisdom, this is that wisdom that's needed for that position, such as like a king needs to know how to run a kingdom and how to lead a people. And when it comes to a person who leads the congregation, in davening, how to sing, etc. The Sifrei Debei Rav questions, how did the Rambam know, where does he derive it from, that if he fulfills his father's place with fear, you teach him the wisdom afterwards. And he points out that if a son who fulfills his father's position with fear of Hashem, even though he didn't know wisdom, in the meantime, you appoint somebody else, like in the Meiri and Horius 11b. Like the Rambam says, you watch or keep the kingdom for the younger child till he becomes an adult, and even though in the meantime they have someone else, therefore you place someone else who's someone who is worthy to fill the place with wisdom until the heir can fill the shoes of his father. Rambam continues, once David was anointed, he merited he merited the crown of kingdom, and the kingdom is to him, and to his male children, forever, it says, as it says in Shmuel 2, chapter 7:16, your seat, your chair of kingdom will be in place forever. and but it's only merited for those who are kosher, eligible. Shenema, as it says in Yishmu B'nech V'Risi, because until we find in 132 that there was a condition: if your children will keep my covenant, even though it was only inherited to those who were kosher, it still will not be cut off if there's a king in the middle who is not worthy. This is what God promised him, that will never cease. Shenema, as it says in Tehillim 89, if his children shall leave my Torah, and in my rulings they will not go, and I will punish them with a rod of the transgression, when they goyim, and with plagues avonim their sins. But my charity I will not take from away from him, that the kingdom will always remain in the kingdom of David. Now, once the Rambam says, once David was anointed, as we find in Yuma 72b, that the vessels of the Mikdash, there were 3 crowns. The crown around the Mizbeach, Hazov, the golden altar, that's Kahuna Gedola. That's where the incense is brought by the Kohen Godel and his children. The crown, the rim that's found around the Oren, is Torah, and anyone who wants to take it can take it. And the crown that's found around the table is the kingdom that David HaMelech received. And it's brought down in Hilchos Talmud Torah. These with 3 crowns was Israel crowned: the Torah, Kuna, and Malchus. Kuna, Aaron received, as it says, it shall be for him and to receive afterwards Bris Kunas Olam. Kesef Torah is sitting and waiting for everyone, as it says, Torah Tzivah Moshe Morosh Kedosh Yaakov. Whoever wants to can come and take it. As the Malchus David received, it says, until Zari Lo Olam Yeh, and his children forever will be there. V'kisei Kashemesh Negdi, and his seat is the royal throne is like the sun in front of me. In Ovis Rav Nosson, chapter 41, he learns this from Yecheskel. David Avdi Nosi Lohem Lo Olam. The Yecheskel Novi says, David, my servant shall be a rule over them forever. Avdi Neza, in a Chakri infer to his male children that the kingdom of David cannot go over from a female, only from a son. But at the beginning of Halacha, he says to him and to his children, it doesn't mention the males. In Halacha Hey, it's brought down the question whether the daughter of a king can inherit the kingdom. The Or Sameach in Divrei Hayom and Beis explains that Hashem Elokei Yisrael gave the kingdom to David, to the Jews, forever to him and his children, Bris Melech, like a covenant of salt. That means that the entire seed of David HaMelech can be kings. Even Machon Nesher has to be from David. But in Sefer HaMitzvos and Peirush HaMeir and Begeres Teimon, the Rambam writes that it has to be from the seed of Shlomo, not only from David, and the kingdom of Mashiach, that Tzamach raised David, which is eternal, comes also from Shlomo HaMelech. There are other places that the Rambam doesn't mention that the king has to be from Shlomo. As we find in Perek Yud Aleph Halacha Daled, and Talmud Torah, Perek Gimel Halacha Aleph, Tshuva, Perek Beis Halacha Beis. And when he speaks about Melech HaMashiach, he only mentions it should be from the seed of David, and from the seed of Shlomo necessarily. The Tzavnas Paneach, Rae Gann brings from Sefer HaMitzvos that the Melech HaMashiach is from the kingdom, the seed of David and Shlomo. And he explains what Shlomo HaMelech said, you Hashem Elokei Yisrael, you Hashem, the God of Israel, you should uphold your words which you said to David, that which are truthful, which is should not be cut off, that Shlomo and his kingdom, children will be continuously kings and never cease. So the king has to come from Beis David, has to be from Shlomo. And he explains with this what it says about Bekamo 98b. The Mepei of Yerushalayim going on one side and Shlomo on the other side, because only from Shlomo HaMelech can come out Mosdos David. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to David HaMelech, regarding Shlomo, he will build a bias for my name, and I will establish his throne forever. That means without the building of the Beis HaMikdash, it could be that the kingdom would revert back to Bnei David. What David said to Shlomo will be after me is no proof that the kingdom has to be from Shlomo. But when it says by the building of the Beis HaMikdash that it will continue through Shlomo, then it has to be from Shlomo. The Chakri Lev cites the Divrei Hayomim. There we find in 28, 4, 5, and 6 that David HaMelech said, and he chose Shlomo B'ni, Shlomo my son, to sit on the throne, and he told me, Shlomo your son, he will build my house and my courtyards. And he questions how we learned that Yoash was the only one who was left from the seed of David, and he was from Shlomo. And if that's the case, obviously it has to be from Shlomo. There's no one else left. Like we find in Yehorius 11b, that Yoash was the Bnei of the Melech Achazio, who was from Shlomo. But if you look at the Seder Adoros, you'll find that the only one that was left over from Atalia did not kill off, was from the Mishpachas Nosson ben David, not from Shlomo. And that puts a question to those who will say that it has to be from Shlomo and not from anyone else. The Zohar HaKodesh says that the oldest daughter of Lot had Moav, and that came the kingdom. Rav Shimon says, and he did not know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to establish a Melech and Shlomo, and that the Yetzer Hara did not know this. And Malka Mashiach. Chaim Vital points out, here we have Shlomo Shemelech HaMashiach will not come out from Nama or Ha'amonis, but he says only from the first wife, from Rus. And we know that Rechavim's wife was Naama Ha'amonis, or his mother. And the Zohar HaKodesh says, Shemechevtzi bo, there was no kings. In a Tosefta, an old Tosefta, Tosefta Atikto, it says that Shevtzi-bo was the mother of Melech HaMashiach. That means that Melech HaMashiach will not be from Naam or Eish Shloimoi, the mother of Rechavam, only from Chevtzi-bo. Chaim Vital points out that it would seem to be a contradiction. In the Chido, in Tzutzi Oiros, brings the name of Sholem Buzgolo, Midish Melech on the Zohar, says that this is a mistake. Chido, the Sar Shalom argues, did not know it's of Chaim Vital. And there's still a question. Alma was the wife of Shlomo. Rechavam came out only from him, the seed of Shlomo, and this is discussed in the early commentaries. In the Zohar HaKodesh it says, "M'aser sin dohi chevtzi bo itzo denosim ba," and it says that the one who will give us, tell us tzion that we are redeemed, is chevtzi bo, the wife of Noson, the son of David, the mother of Mashiach, Menachem bar Imeir. Thus we see that Chevtzi bo was the wife of Noson ben David, and that's where Melech HaMashiach will come from, not from Shlomo. The Ramami Pano says that it could be that there was a point where Noson and Shlomo both intermarried, and there's no contradiction. And Baruch HaYodea, even though it would come out from the female side of one of them, not from the male necessarily, but it would be the female side of Shlomo. In Tzutzi Zohar, he points out that the Zohar doesn't mention that Mashiach will be from Noson ben David, only Chevtzi bo. It could be that Noson died without children, and the family of Chevtzi bo was from Shlomo, who did leverage marriage, and he took her, and he had children, and therefore she's his wife. And because we find in Sanhedrin that the king does have to do yibum, Therefore, Naama was called Chev Tzibor because somebody who gives chalitza has to say Lo Yechavat Tzibor. She's called Chev Tzibor. That Shlomo HaMelech said, I would marry her. But, therefore Yoash was from her. The Chemedus Yisrael says, if I wouldn't be in doubt, I would say that this is the source of the statement of the Zohar, HaKodesh, that Melech Mashiach will be from Nosson. Because in Zerah Chavam, everyone was killed out, and there was nobody left out times of Yoash. Therefore, those who say, like the Seder Adoros, that it's not from Chavam, it's because she was not it's not because she was the mother of Chavam from Yisrael. Like the Kesef Mishnah says, Chavam was not from Yisrael, and we see the words in the United Yudah that he didn't have a din of Melech completely, and therefore he decided to be more stringent with the Klal Yisrael because he didn't feel the brotherhood of Klal Yisrael like he should have, and therefore Melech Mashiach is not from his seed. The Chemedus Yisrael continues to explain the Zohar HaKodesh, and he brings down what's brought from the Peirush HaMeir that Melech Mashiach will be from Shlomo, and he explains the Rambam Melech Mashiach has to be only from Shlomo, according to Reb Chaim Vital, because he begins the Shlomo and the Kimish B'Techel HaMelech Tein. The Tillim, in Tillim it says 72, the Shlomo God, you should give your judgments of kingdom. And he says, Kol Tfilos David ben Yishai. And when he concludes, he's not talking about Shlomo, he's talking about David ben Yishai. Even though there are we see further in Tillim other prayers of David. Since in this Mizmor, the Melech wanted the Melech Mashiach should come from Shlomo, and therefore it's concluded that this will ultimately be the situation. In Sanhedrin, it says that Neo, who wanted to be king in the place of David, is considered disagreeing with the kingdom of Beis David. And Marsha explains that even though Adonio was the son of David, it's considered they disagreed with the Malchus, because David gave the kingdom to Shlomo, like Beshava. It said to David HaMelech that he swore by the Hashem that Shlomo will be king. Therefore, Adonio wanted to be king is considered disagreeing with Malchus with David. So we see that only Shlomo was committed to be king of Klal Yisrael from the seed of David. The Rambam Brisk explains this according to the Psukim in Shmuel. Adonio was considered someone who disagreed with the kingdom, because the kingdom you have to be a continuation from Shlomo. We can end with the words of the Rambam Pano. Blessed is he who knows Mashiach ben David. May he come and redeem us swiftly and in our days. Amen.